Hello, Happy New Year! Hope you had a great Christmas. And I just wanted to share something today that I thought was really great for starting off the new year, because everyone's in well, not everyone, a lot of people are in a season of uncertainty and kind of discouragement right now because of the lockdowns and the pandemic and everything, when we thought things were getting better and then they seem to get worse. So yeah, I was just reading and studying about hope, which has been really encouraging me in this season and just helping me see the positives and have hope for the future. So yeah, I just wanted to share some of those things with you guys, and hopefully this will encourage you. And firstly, I just want to say that I totally understand that other people have different ways, different beliefs that they have put their hope in and that helps them, and I totally respect that. But this is just my view, my personal opinions, and what helps me. So that's just what I'm going to share. So yeah, feel free to try any of these things at home. So yeah, and I also want to say that it's not being hopeful and completely ignoring what's going on and completely ignoring pain, because we really do have to acknowledge pain sometimes and actually process through it in order to recover from it and in order to get through it out of the other side. So I'm not saying completely ignore it and pretend nothing bad is happening, because that's totally not the case. We have to acknowledge pain sometimes before we can move through it. So yeah, I just want to say that hope is not we don't get our hope from our current circumstances most of the time. Sometimes we do, we have great things that happen, positive circumstances that bring us hope in that moment, but mostly hope will come from what is ahead of us. Christians believe that we have hope for from the joy that's set before us, from the promises of God. There's a lot of times in the Bible where people get their hope from what is ahead of them and not what they're going through. For example, Abraham in the Bible was promised that he would be a father of many generations, he would have many children, and that was a big thing for him, because he was nearly 100 years of age, and his wife was also around 90 years of age, I think. So it was impossible for him, and he was feeling bad in that moment, that's not going to happen because I'm too old, that's just not possible. But God had told him that word, you're going to be the father of many generations. So he got his hope from that word that God had given him, and that word for the future, for his future, is what gave him hope. And he trusted in God, and that actually eventually happened to him, because obviously whatever God says, whatever God promises you, is always going to be true. He doesn't lie, and he's not just going to say it to make you feel better. What he says he means. He will do what he says he will do. And I just want to share, I had a similar kind of experience, not in that major way, but I was I think I was coming home when I was living in America. I was coming home to visit at one point. I'm not sure if it was Christmas or just to visit or whatever, but I was kind of feeling a bit yeah, I love what I'm doing now, but I have no idea what I'm going to do in the future. I was feeling kind of anxious and a bit I want to have a plan, I want to know what I'm going to do. And I remember being on a coach, or yeah, I think it was a coach, on the way home from the airport, and I was just looking out the window, just thinking about life as you do, and just being what am I doing with my life? Because everyone thinks that sometimes. Yeah, I was looking out the window and I just was looking at a plane going past, and it was kind of a weird moment. I had this thought, God spoke to me in that moment. He was you're going to be doing a lot of that. And I was doing a lot of what? And I just felt in that moment he was moving around, traveling, or not staying in the same place. And I was okay, if that's what you want me to do. But then I kind of had this overwhelming sense of God's presence, this was a big thing in my life, that this was a big plan for me, and obviously I had no idea what job I'm going to do, if I'm going to travel, I don't know. But yeah, I just really felt his presence in that moment, and I just felt a recognition that I don't need to worry about my future, that he just really clearly told me in that moment, I have your future, I have a plan for you. And that it was so clear to me in that moment, I'd never felt that kind of presence of God before. So I just instantly felt I was given a new hope, and I just felt better in that moment because I knew that God had spoken to me, and that just gave me so much hope. And in that moment, other than the word that God had spoken to me, I had no evidence that that was going to happen, because no one had ever like told me, oh yeah, your job's going to involve a lot of traveling. I didn't want a job with a lot of traveling. I've never like thought about traveling a lot in my life. Like all I had was that one word from God, but that was enough to give me hope. And this is like what a lot of Christians do to get their hope. They hear from God, and like one word from God can like just give you so much hope. Like even when you can see nothing like in your circumstances, even if it looks bad right now, one word from God just restores that hope. And it's like it says in Hebrews, it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So it's like we're having faith for like what is ahead of us. We've got faith for those things to happen. Even though we see nothing now, we trust God, and that's what gives us the hope that we need. Because if we hope in things that are just seen, that's going to end in a lot of disappointment. Like if we just put our hope in like what we see on earth, like earthly things that can easily fall away, because there's a lot of corruption, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain in this world. So if we just put our hope in physical things that can easily fall away, that have no solid ground, no security, then we're going to end in being disappointed a lot of the time. But if we hope in things unseen, like things that God has promised us, like we're not going to end up being disappointed, because God is not a God who disappoints. God always comes through and keeps his promises. So in the end, we are not going to be disappointed. And I just found it really interesting. I was doing some research on like some Hebrew words, and I found that in Hebrew there's two words for hope. The first one is yakal, which means to wait for. So it's like hoping is like waiting for God to do whatever he's going to do, which I thought was really good. And then there's also kavar, which comes from the word kav, which means cord. So that by that they mean like when you pull a cord, like for example, there's like tension there, like so when we pull it there's tension. So it's like when we're waiting for God, that we wait in like this tension, like a healthy tension, like this expectation. So we have this expectation while we're waiting for God to do what he's going to do. And I just thought that was a really good representation of like how we should be hoping, like how we should have hope for what God's going to do in our lives. So like obviously when I got the word from God when I was on the coach that time, I could choose to like just write it off as like, oh yeah, that's a nice idea, and then just not really think about it. Or I could choose to wait for that promise to come to pass, to wait in expectation and actually have hope for it. And that way I'd be living in hope, like in expectation, knowing that what God has said he's going to do. And that would just make me live a better life in general, really, because I would have that hope, because I have listened to God and I've put my trust in God, and that's going to make me live in that everlasting hope. And the Bible also tells us that hope deferred makes the heart sick, but hope renewed is a tree of life. So that's also really important. Like if we don't have hope, like it's saying that our heart is going to get sick, like we're not going to feel good, we're going to be down, like we're not going to have anything to look to. But whereas if we have this hope, it's going to be like, it's going to bring life to us, it's going to bring us like joy and like expectation for the future. Like just imagine how much like healthier and happier your life is going to be if you've got that hope for the future. And obviously like I've got like a few things that God has told me that he's going to do, but like God doesn't tell us everything, like otherwise he wouldn't be God. If we knew everything that he was going to do for us, like if we knew his plans for our life, he wouldn't be God. Like we're meant to be in wonder, like in awe and wonder of him, because we don't understand, like we don't know the half of what God has for us. So we're like we're full of wonder, like of what he's going to do in the future, because we don't know the half of it. Like just imagine, like he's such a good God and he has like plans for us to prosper and do great things. Like we wouldn't be here unless he had a great plan for us. So if you're still here, you're alive, God has a great plan for you, and you don't even know, you'll never know the half of what he has for you. Just think of how amazing that is. And that on its own just gives me so much hope, because I'm like, wow, there's so many great things to come, and I don't even know, like I don't even know what it's going to be. And that's just so exciting. Like whatever current circumstances look like, whatever like bad situation you might be personally going through, or like what we're going through now, it's not going to last forever. And like even if it does last for a long time, there's still great things to come, like even in the midst of that, because God is not like limited to our circumstances. Like he can still do whatever he wants to do while we're going through like whatever physical things on earth, you know. Like there's still more that God is doing and that he will do after it's finished as well. So just put your focus on that and not like what's currently happening. And when we put our hope in the Lord, he enables us to see our potential and he opens our eyes for what he has for us. So we must remember like to always put our hope in the Lord at all times, because he's like our source of hope. He's where our hope comes from. And just like thinking about what he's done, like the rise of Jesus from the dead, like that just gives us hope in itself, because when Jesus died on the cross, he like set us apart from the corruption and the suffering and the pain of this world and enabled us to live a life in Christ where we are living in freedom, and God promises to do a great work in our lives. Like we don't have to live bound to this world. We're not restricted, or like we don't have to feel what like the world is feeling, because God has given us this freedom and we're like set apart for him. And that gives me so much hope for the future. I hope that gives you hope as well, because I just think that's amazing. Like for most Christians, that is the source of our hope. Like Jesus is raised from the dead, and that means we're not bound to this world anymore. We're not bound to the bad things of this world, and that's just so amazing, I think. So today, just choose not to be restricted or bound to by what you're seeing going on in the world. Just choose to like have hope for what is ahead of you, like beyond circumstances. Think of like what amazing things God has planned for each and every one of us, and then just see how your attitude changes daily, because I've literally seen that and it's been so amazing. Like I don't know where else I could get this amazing hope from, because even though I'm kind of a bit sad some days, a bit down because of the lockdown, or I can't do what I want to do, I'm like, no, because God gave me even that one promise. I could say like a lot of promises that God's given me, but from that one promise, I'm like, no, he said this. And in that split second, I'm like, if he said this, I'm going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine, because he is who he says he is, and he will do what he said he will do. And I've got no doubt about that. So yeah, if you're just in doubt, just think about that. And I just hope that will really help you to focus on the good things that God is doing, because God is always doing a new thing, doing a great thing. Like just seek him out and he will show you. And just hope that really encourages you. Yeah, so despite what's going on, this year is going to be a good year, because God is so good and God is doing great things always. And yeah, so I hope you're encouraged by that, and blessings on you for this year to come. Thanks for watching. Bye.